Ms. Hartzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello. During the 2011-2012 consultations with Congress regarding a larger deal with the Taliban, the Secretary of State then, Secretary Clinton, told the National Security Chairman in writing and verbally that if detainees at Gitmo were transferred, this was not an, quote, exchange, but rather these Taliban detainees would only be released as part of a larger diplomatic process. She identified a number of prerequisites to this deal over and above the security assurances from Qatar. So, Mr. Secretary, in addition to the release of Sergeant Bergdahl, which of those other prerequisites were met?
Well, first I start with, and this is really the answer to the General Clapper issue, which he had the same position, as you know, as Secretary Clinton in that year. But because things have changed, General Clapper has supported sign off on this deal. One, the whole dimension of Afghanistan today, where the Afghan army is, where the Afghan government is, that's first. Second, the assurances, written assurances that we have from the Qatari government, particularly the Emir's specific personal commitment to the President of the United States, a change in leadership in Qatar. These are all differences that were not present in 2011 and 2012. Also, the framework, and I've read the letter, by the way, that the Secretary sent. The framework, as you recall in that letter, as I mentioned earlier this morning, was a larger reconciliation piece. Not that Bergdahl was incidental to that, but Bergdahl was not the core of it. This time, Bergdahl is the core of it. Those are some of the differences and the changes that are pretty dramatic, and in fact, why General Clapper signed off on this and supports this decision.
What I would like to know is what else did we get for this deal? And I'm not minimizing the impact of the sergeant himself.
Well, we'll start with the sergeant.
Well,
but what else? I mean, you mean
there was other assurances talked about in that letter that was hoped to be secured as part of an overall deal.
Overall deal, but this was not an overall deal. This was a prisoner exchange versus 2011 and 2012, where the framework was of what the intent was, what the objectives were. Those objectives were far broader and wider, is your point, and we didn't have those objectives.
At the briefing on Monday, the question was asked whether any money was exchanged with Qatar or with other people for this deal, and the answer was no money was exchanged, but it wasn't clarified with who. And if there was anything additional, the question wasn't answered whether there was anything besides perhaps money discussed in this. So it was, did the Taliban or any of the individuals involved receive anything from our government other than no? Okay. At the House-wide member briefing, the same briefing Monday night, Deputy National Security Advisor Tony Blinken was asked if this agreement makes American men and women in uniform and other officials stationed abroad safer. And I recall his response to be that the agreement wouldn't make Americans safer, but that the law didn't require the administration to assess that. So do you believe that our military service members around the world, not just in Afghanistan, are safer because of this deal?
The way I'd answer it is this way. First of all, the objective was to get our POW back. That was the objective, and we did. Mitigating risks and so on, which you've heard this all morning. But to your specific question, when you look at, first, now we have no POW. That means there are more resources that we can apply in other areas, in Afghanistan in particular. I think for our military, and I mentioned this morning, for our military to know that we'll come get them if they're captured, regardless of the circumstances. It may not translate into direct safety, but I think that's pretty significant, plus giving our forces more of their own capacity to deal with what they're doing in Afghanistan without, quite frankly, some restrictions that did inhibit some, because we knew every day we were trying to find ways to get our POW back. So, I mean, I think, again, when you add all that up, that's pretty significant.
Thank you.
Thank you.